we've talked to a lot of different people who have talked about very different topics. And I know you're going to talk about this in a moment, but the pace got hectic. And I know for you with the editing, it really got hectic. But I think when we were just starting to let some of the truths sink in from one episode, we were on to another.
Yep.
And as the listener would know, we were doing conversations with authors about books. And so reading a book and then talking about the book and then turning right around and doing it again didn't afford me as much time to be able to process.
And you think about like not only reading a book, you're taking notes on it, you're thinking of questions. By the end of 15 episodes, not all of them, I mean, we had like 8 authors, something like that. I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot of content, and I definitely felt tired. And I think you're absolutely right that, well, here's the realization I had. The content that these people that we're collecting and aggregating and having these conversations is a gift. And it's a gift because if you think about it, I can't just call 8 random authors and sit down and record with them outside of the context of a podcast. And the gift is, like you're saying, what are you going to do with it? You're just going to fly on to the next thing like we do with everything in culture, like, scroll to the next thing? Or are we going to be a little countercultural and stop and actually process, right? That's what we're doing. We're taking a pause to process. I mean, tell them how we're processing, though, because it's actually kind of cool.
Well, at our church, the Sunday school was interested in processing season 3 with a class. And so we have an incredible opportunity to sit down with a large group of people from our own church and process some of what we heard and some of what they're hearing. And so it's not just going to be, our own ears and our own minds processing. We're going to get the benefit of, 35, 40 other individuals processing what we heard. And I think that's a really neat opportunity to hear other perspectives.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I love that we're actually doing what we're saying, like what we've been saying in the previous seasons, like encouraging the audience to stop, process, and to do this with other people, and that they'd be willing to do it. So we actually kicked off our first class, and there was, over 30 some people. Maybe it'll continue to grow, but people were engaged.
Oh, they wanted to continue talking past the time it ends. You know?
It was. They were excited, and so that's gonna multiply this gift, right? And what will be even more fantastic, and this is the objective of the Sunday school, is to actually capture some actions that maybe we lock shoulders, lock arms, and mobilize to be the question we asked of this season, right? How can we live more effectively as a local church body in our world intention? And for us, that means in Chattanooga, right?
I mean, I did not expect to be able to be in a place where the church that I'm attending would actually be able to process some of this information. It's just amazing because it is the point of the season. I mean, and so here we are now with that able to come to fruition where we're actually processing it with a church.
I mean, we're still on the road trip, aren't we?
So, yeah.
No, seriously, in a way, we're still on the journey of now. We started this with going out on the street, and you and I were we got giddy because we were nervous. And now we're in Sunday school processing that. We couldn't have envisioned this, right?
Oh, wow.
And what's cool is what's going to happen next, right? I mean, what is it? What if this leads to some crazy, awesome ministry opportunity that we couldn't conceive of earlier, just because you and I started to walk out on the street with some mics? That's awesome to think about. I don't know what's going to happen, but that's part of, I think, being open to the Spirit and wanting to grow and learn and be connected to Christ and do that as a body.
Welcome to A World Intention podcast, a place where we examine the opposing pulls and struggles of life to uncover clarity, purpose, and practical solutions. Come join us as we seek to get comfortable facing the uncomfortable. This is A World Intention.
So back to the idea of asking permission to pause. Essentially what we are asking you, the listener, to do is allow us a season of processing. We have 3 months with the Sunday school class to process, to listen to what others gained from these episodes, to re-listen, and to really think about what we heard and how we can apply it. And so we really need to pause on recording and releasing episodes to be able to do that. So I'm anticipating that after the new year, we will be back with a few episodes of presenting to you what's come of it.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I would encourage the listener at the same time, why don't you consider doing the same? If you have people you're listening to this with, or maybe they don't know it, but it's kind of jazzed you up, why don't you pull some people in your local church, maybe even the leadership, and say, hey, these guys are processing. I'd like to process too. You can pick which episode. We're not going to do every episode. We don't have enough time to do every episode. Each local context is different. So maybe pick some that you think are relevant for you guys and see where it leads. That's what I'd encourage.
Well, I think it was neat today in the Sunday school class. We had our first one today, that these episodes provide great fodder for conversation in a local body or in a small group.
It's like a book, an audio book that had a different author for each chapter, right? And you're trying to bring it together and kind of write the ending. So we've had some thoughts, we've had some reflections. So what are some of your thoughts you've had about the season without having a full, deep reflection? I mean, did anything really stand out to you?
Well, the episode that we did with Michael Graham was formative for me, and just seeing why people were leaving the church. And I just loved his sensitivity to be able to process and think through compartmentalizing people who have left the church into different bins. And then the thought that went into, and I assume the prayer as well, into how to minister to each of these groups. And there was some really challenging things in there for me that I would have liked to spend some more time getting into, and certainly would like to execute in my own life. I think one of the other things that was really interesting was, Paul Miller's attitude about how important prayer is in the worship service.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how to apply that.
Yeah.
That was also a very interesting thought.
I agree. I mean, I'm trying to, where my mind's going is just like one of the universal themes, and it's so neat because you're talking to people who are focusing on different things, from brain science to why people leave in a church, to prayer, to even a home church type environment, to church hurt, like all these dots that are kind of disconnected all unify in community. The concept that we need each other, and that there's nothing, that's not rocket science, but to just hear it's more about shifting. Hey, Neil, this is actually really important. You who likes to be kind of introverted and spend time alone and think alone, and maybe not like, I don't need people, I can figure it out. No. Like that really spoke to me about, and it kind of maybe influencing, hey, let's process this beyond you and I, right? Let's process this as a church. I guess I've grown, and I don't even think I fully understand yet how much, I hope I continue to grow in it, I guess is what I'm saying, is how valuable this local body is intended to be, and the power of that if it's really firing on all cylinders.
Well, let me prompt you to mention the specific thing about the dissonance idea that relates to community, because you've repeated that in every group or discussion that we've had with other people. Yeah,
I mean, the concept of the church actually being a gym to work the dissonance muscle, and I'm glad you said that, because the thing the new kind of thought that has come to my mind is I'm really concerned about how our world is becoming more and more polarized, but also within that polarization, there's a bunch of little subgroups. So imagine a bunch of different little slivers of different people that can only agree with this little sliver, and it's getting tighter and tighter. And thinking about the concept of the church being able to span across more slivers to be attractional. And what I mean by that is they're not compromising truth, but they're showing love in a way. I think if you have a church that's just worked out their emotional, spiritual and relational muscle, which is basically what maturity and dissonance is. Wow, that's awesome, right? If we become healthy in that regard, so that the world looks and goes, you guys stand for something, but you're not polarizing. You're really welcoming. Like, what is this? What's going on here? It's like, well, it's Jesus, right? I mean, that's what's going on here. So that concept excites me. All right, so we've gone on long enough. I think we need to hit the pause button and really take this time to reflect. So what anything else you want to tell the listener?
No, I'm just appreciative of a couple months to go back through some of this and really see where it hits home.
Yeah, and you know what? If you do take a pause, if you take me up on that challenge, and you do it, and cool things happen, you have our email address. Write us. We'd love to hear about it.
Actually, there is one other thing, Neil.
Okay.
We have an Instagram account.
We do.
So if you have questions or you have thoughts, things that hit you as you're processing, leave comments for us.
Yeah, I like that. And the people we interviewed on the street, if you've made your way back to somehow listen to this podcast, reach out. Like,
that would be awesome.
I've said it before, and no one's taken me up on that. But like, if you're looking to process through some of these things, it would be awesome to like hear from you. So if that's you and you've been thinking about it, do it. Just do it.
Yeah, reach out.
Well, Rob, it's good. It's good to just you and I chat a little bit without all the stresses of an author in front of us.
I've loved it. It's great. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, listener, for bearing with us. And thank you for listening to another episode of A World in Tension.